You realize we have not left low Earth orbit since 1972, 52 years ago. And you're asking me in 50 years whether we're gonna have colonies on Mars?
Imagine this. Humanity once stood on the moon, and then we never went back. Not for decades. Not because we couldn't, but because something changed. The real question is, why did we stop? Before rockets touched the sky, the world was already divided. Two powers stood at the center of global tension: the United States and the Soviet Union. This was not just a rivalry, it was a silent war of ideology, influence, and fear.
We went into space because we felt threatened by the godless communists, and we were reacting to everything they did in space.
In 1957, the Soviet Union launched Sputnik, a simple satellite, no weapons, no crew, just a signal. But that sound echoed across the world like a warning, because for the first time in history, humans had placed something above the Earth, and suddenly, space was no longer empty. To the public, Sputnik was fascinating, but to governments, it was terrifying, because if they could send a satellite into orbit, they could send something much more dangerous. That moment didn't spark curiosity, it sparked fear. The United States responded immediately. NASA was created, not just to explore, but to compete. This single idea changes how we see everything. Space exploration didn't begin as a dream, it began as a response. Each move was mirrored. The Soviets sent a dog, Laika. The Americans responded with a chimpanzee. It wasn't exploration, it was competition. Then the race escalated. The next destination was no longer orbit, it was the moon. In 1961, a bold promise was made. America would land a man on the moon. Not someday, but within the decade. And in 1969, it happened. Humans landed on the moon. It was celebrated as the greatest achievement in history, but beneath that celebration, there was a quiet question.
We looked over our shoulder. Wait, where are the Russians? Oh, they're not here. Okay, then we ended the space program. We had Apollo 18 ready to fly. We never flew it because the Russians said, we ain't following you to the moon. Y'all's crazy.
Because this was never just about reaching the moon. It was about beating someone else to it. That's the part most people never think about. We didn't stop because we failed. We stopped because NASA won. Think about that. Missions were ready. Technology existed. Momentum was there. And yet, everything stopped. What if space exploration was never about exploration? What if it was always about competition? And once the competition ended, so did the mission.
You realize we have not left low Earth orbit 52 years ago.
For over half a century, humans stayed close to Earth. We built satellites. We built space stations, but we never returned to deep space.
And you're asking me in 50 years whether we're gonna have colonies on Mars?
The idea of Mars sounds natural, like the next step, but history tells a different story. And this is where the illusion breaks. Progress in space has never been automatic. It has always been driven by something deeper.
Oh, China says they want to put astronauts on the moon. And all of a sudden, hey, wouldn't it be good if we went back to the moon? Yeah, sure, let's do that. And Trump announces this, and that's something that transcends all politics because we are spooked by other folks who might get to someplace before us.
Now, the world is changing again. China is rising as a space power, and suddenly the conversation is back. We are not returning to space because we suddenly became curious again. We are returning because the race has restarted.
Well, why are they going now? Why didn't they stay on the moon in 1972 or go back in 1980 or 1990 or 2000 or 2010? Why?
Exactly. Why now? That answer leads us to something powerful, a mission that represents a turning point. Artemis 2. This mission will send humans around the moon again, for the first time in over 50 years. But it's not just about going back, it's about something much bigger. The moon is no longer just a destination, it's a strategic location. Resources, military positioning, future missions to Mars. Whoever leads here leads the future of space. And that's what makes this moment different. It's not about one leader, one country. It's something deeper. That's the truth. The same force that pushed us to the moon in the 1960s is pushing us again today. So maybe space was never about exploration. Maybe it was always about competition. And now the race has begun again. What if I told you humanity just crossed a line we haven't crossed in over 50 years? When Artemis 2 completed its journey around the moon, the world watched in shock. This wasn't just another rocket launch, it was humanity's bold return to deep space. They traveled all the way to the moon, closer than any humans have been in more than half a century. And yet, they never landed, not because they couldn't, but because they weren't supposed to. 4 astronauts left Earth aboard a spacecraft called Orion. Their mission, Artemis II, day by day, Earth shrank behind them until it became nothing more than a glowing blue star in the darkness. But here's the strange part. They weren't heading there to land. Instead of descending to the surface, their spacecraft followed a path known as a free return trajectory, a precise cosmic loop where the moon's gravity pulls the spacecraft around the far side and slings it back toward Earth. No landing, no orbit, just one perfect swing through space. So why go all that way, only to turn around? Because landing on the moon is not the hardest part. Coming home is. Before humanity can return to the lunar surface, every system must be tested with real astronauts aboard. Life support systems that keep humans alive in the vacuum of space. Navigation systems that guide them across hundreds of thousands of miles. Communication systems that keep them connected to Earth. And one system above all others, because when Orion returns, it doesn't drift gently into Earth's atmosphere. It crashes into it at nearly 25,000 miles per hour, hotter than lava, hotter than the surface of many stars. If the heat shield fails, there is no rescue, only fire. Then comes the moment of isolation. As Orion passes behind the moon itself blocks every signal. For 41 minutes, Mission Control hears nothing. No voices, no telemetry, no data, just silence. For the crew, those 41 minutes are the loneliest moments of the mission. Floating behind the moon, completely cut off from Earth. And yet, in that silence, history is being made. This mission marks the first time humans have traveled this far from Earth since the era of Apollo, more than 50 years. And at their closest point, they will fly just 5,000 miles above the lunar surface, close enough to see its craters stretch across the horizon, like mountains frozen in time. But still, they will not land. Because Artemis II was never meant to be the mission that lands. It was meant to be the mission that proves humanity can survive the journey, that every system works, that every calculation is correct, that every astronaut can leave Earth and return safely. Only then can the next mission attempt the impossible. If Artemis II succeeds, Artemis III will follow. And for the first time in more than half a century, humans will once again walk on the moon, not as explorers of the past, but as pioneers of the future. So the real question was never, why didn't Artemis II land? The real question is, what had to be proven first before humanity dares to land again?